It's incredible being back in the Bay Area again, La Bahia. And this is why we call it Incantations from La Bahia, the Bay. And we really thank you very much for coming out and enjoying and working with us. We first had Nina, a couple of us, the idea of what we were going to do. We're all going to come in and talk about history, our first publications. Then we start realizing, wait a minute, there's 10, 11 of us, and we've got to talk about half an hour in each segment, and then we're trying to read poetry. We said, no, it's not going to happen. You know, not for me, not for ourselves, and not for you. It's going to be too much. So we said, you know what? We will just do what we as poets do. We will just, through our poetry, through our imagery, through our feeling, our emotions, you will understand where we came from and where we are today. So with that, I thought perhaps with Nina, you were going to do the first part, or were you going to do your poem first? Okay, yeah, let's do it this way. Speaking about the first publications with Raza, as a number of you know, 50s, 60s, you didn't hear or you didn't see many publications of Latina poets in this country, okay? Maybe the first in the 60s you might have, at the real late, like 60s and early 70s, Tino Villanueva, Ricardo Sánchez, Corky Gonzalez, and we began to start working with them, right? And we, meaning mi compadre Alejandro Muriquilla, we put together, we realized that we couldn't wait. We had Dell Publication called me. They came over, they showed me a book, you know, what we can do with it. Grove Press did the same thing. They laid it out for me. Then when I asked, I wanted Rene Yanez to do the cover of the one from Dell, and they did. So I said, okay, forget it. I threw it back in their face. I wanted Rene. In other words, if you don't let me do what I want to do with my book, and the same thing happened to Grove. Grove Press said, okay, these look good. These are a little bit scary. You know, they want the political poetry, they scare the hell out of them. So I said, Grove Press, adios. So then that's what we put together with Isidro Macias. We put the Ediciones Pochoche. The same thing happened, I won't name names, but there was a nice publication in Berkeley. Last time it was good. But essentially, you had to be an academic or be close to it to be able to publish. They weren't talking about Pinto poetry like un Raúl Salinas, who was in jail at the time. A lot of compañeros that were, you know, not in the academic scene, etc. So we said, let's do what we've got to do. Develop the publication, develop the forums. So we did Ediciones Pochoche, where we did Alurista. We went down south, Alejandro and I, to visit Alurista, and what a great first meeting we had, the Loco de Alurista. And Alurista, I really enjoyed him because he was doing the same kinds of things that, you know, that I had watched on Victor Cruz in New York, where we were mixing the Spanish and English idioms. You know, and we said if Neruda can do it, if Ezra Pound and all those folks can get away with it, why can't we? And people say, no, it's not, you know, it's a work, it doesn't function. Yes, it does. I can, especially in this country, in this continent, where there is Spanish and English majority. So it will work, we're going to make it work. So that's what we began with our publication of our poets. And Alejandro, the compadre, said, okay, también, instead of waiting a year, 2 years for publications, let's do periodicals, la revista Tintan, you know? So then that's when we get the Tintan también. Now, what I want to do, as I pointed out, not just to talking, and we will do that next year, hopefully. We're talking about doing a reunion. A reunion for some of the books, like which Jan will show as well. This is called Tying to Greece. Incantations from the Third World, and we got the introduction by Maya Angelou. 1973, right? Who knew about Pulitzer Prizes in Kentilotto? You know, we were saying this is our statement. So Maya put her name across there. We put a chile pepper, with a chopstick holding up the. So this is our statement, you know. And after that, a couple years later, another book came out that was pretty interesting, Third World Anthology, the first one by a major publication. they wanted to kind of see what they can do with it. It did okay. But again, this is the first one, and it's the one that's lasted, right? And then came If There Were Women, which Janice will point it out. Now, what I think we should do, if my compadre Gatito, would you come up, please, and talk a little bit about the Tintan and do your poetry. You want it after?
Do the reading after the talking.
Okay, well, the idea was that Nina will come up and do your reading, right? Do your reading, and then we'll come up with Janice and we'll do the Third World Women and Third World Poetry, your poetry, okay? So Nina, we're going to improvise on this one.
Well, as I said, Roberto was the initiator. He was the spark plug. He was the street poet that hung out with the beats, ran around the streets reading poetry with them in the dark of the night for hours and hours on end. But then the politics began to change. And all of a sudden, there was a struggle, a tremendous struggle at San Francisco State for open admission, because people of color were demanding their place in the sun, the right to equal education. And that kind of radicalized everything in the barrio. And at that same moment, 7 Salvadoran youth were arrested. They were called Los Siete de la Raza. And they were accused of killing a policeman. Well, I had wanted to work on that, so I called up. I had published my first poem. I maybe had 2 poems at that point in my life. I started writing late. And I called the Los Siete de la Raza Defense Fund. And I said, oh, I want to help. Well, how can you help? Well, I'm a poet. A poet? A poet? You better call that crazy Roberto Vargas. He thinks that poetry is going to make this movement. And you know what? Roberto was right. I called Roberto, and before we knew it, we were giving poetry readings and raising funds and consciousness all over the city. And this is called The Mission Story. I arrived in the mission in 1961. The first thing I discovered were the hills of Dolores. At the corner grocery, I filled a bag with round oranges, stuffing it in the flimsy baby stroller and pushing my daughter uphill. The hill resisted the weight of the package and the child. The bag broke. First 1, 2, then 12 oranges I could not catch rolled down the bumpy streets. My first night in the mission, the fruit bowl stood empty on the table. On the second day, people on the 14 mission talked with Irish accents, Irish bars, Irish priests, a strong Irish presence in the older businesses, a few Italians sprinkled in, among the rapidly opening taquerias and signs saying, "Se habla español." Flash forward a few years, the churches delivered services in Spanish, the library offered books in Spanish, the police busting Los Siete, sweeping the streets for young Latino males to pin the killing of a cop on, free Los Siete mobilizations shouting, "Basta ya!" above the loud clatter of building the BART. The fashion took on the Che Guevara look. By the 1970s, the refugees and exiles began to fill the cafes with their intensities and passions, adding the colors of their causes to the murals. Mothers met at City Hall demanding welfare justice, greeted with armed men in 4 corners of the lobby, pointing guns at them. Unafraid, the women raised their voices to protect their children's needs. By the 1980s, one side of the BART station was called Plaza Sandino, and the other, Plaza Farabundo Marti. Mayor Moscone and City Supervisor Harvey Milk were already assassinated by an ex-policeman with a sugar rush, Twinkie, legal defense to stop their open and welcoming administration. The grief went all the way uphill to the Castro. By the 1990s, the gentrification of the dot-com saw newly built condos, lofts, and rent rise till the bubble burst, leaving people looking around to see who was left and what they were doing. Army Street became Cesar Chavez. By the 21st century, the older murals faded with the pentimento process, peeling layers of time and urban grime, and the sun propelling us to rise every morning to take our places in the task of repairing the world. So as Roberto said, we were this group of Latino writers, and we had a collective, Editorial Cochoche, and we were putting out as much stuff as we could, but we began to notice that we weren't the only ones. There were groups like us all over the city. They were organizing, they were writing, and they were addressing the same issues that we were. And we came together and formed Third World Communications. And that's where these fabulous books that you'll be seeing grew, from this coalition, this coming together of forces. And what was unique about that is that we were in a time of cultural nationalism, where everybody had their own little agenda. But all of us had an internationalist perspective. We had a global perspective. It was racism and imperialism that we were addressing. It was the economic injustice, the social injustice. And so we came together and we published Filipino poets, Black poets, all of us together. And we also, well, this is how I met Francisco Arlotano. He was not a big, famous, important professor and poet who travels all over the world reading poetry. He was a enthusiastic, very enthusiastic graduate student. He loved literature. Well, the reason we went to Stanford and met Francisco is that we were invited to form something called the first encuentro of Chicano-Latino literature. And it was 1974, and it was the first public statement, as far as we know, that there was such a thing. And again, it was tied to anti-imperialist struggles. Salvador Allende had just been murdered. There had been a coup in Chile. And the chairman at Stanford of the Romance and Spanish Language Department was Fernando Alegría. And so he chaired this 3-day conference that we gave, declaring our poetry, and from all over the country, people came, the New Yorkers, the Southern Californians, the Chicano movement, everybody was in it. And yes, that's right, Mexico too. And we called it the Festival del Sexto Sol, the Sixth Sun, the coming of the age of consciousness, and that's what Roberto was just referring to. Or Francisco was just referring to, that we're coming to that new age, December 31st. But we were already there in 1974. And this is it.
Missionaries.
Yes. Sexto Sol been here and gone since the germ sprouted flowers, then fruits, symbols and spirits to voodoo, that yes, you too have to do the struggle that's due for you to do what must be done so liberation can come. Space is no wonder, except there's so much between us. when we could lay close to the whispered secrets in the rays of the sexto sol, sexto sol, sexto sol. El sexto sol, venga, come. Eric mentioned the Sandinista movement. The Sandinista movement was something we were so close to. The Sandinista revolution triumphed in 1979, but in 1975, Roberto invited me to El Chipote, which was the headquarters for the revolutionary Sandinista movement in the Mission on Valencia by 22nd Street, a little storefront. And the result of that was 10 years of revolution in Nicaragua, of which Alejandro and Roberto both were guerrilleros in that movement, and the fact that we had a tremendous solidarity movement in the Bay Area for El Salvador and for Nicaragua. So this describes it, and it's my final mission poem for the evening. Of course, I can't help but keep writing about the mission, but for tonight, this is it. I saw it myself on the corner of Mission and 24th Street. We, the people of San Francisco, did rename the ground a family of palm trees grows on. They share the space with a subway named BART, brand new and already out of date. As I was saying, this shared cement ground surrounded by a sweet shop, a fast food store, and 4 bus stops was renamed by we the people with a radius of 20 miles or so, Plaza Sandino. I wasn't counting the origins of birth. Nicaragua mostly. We chanted, incanted, circling, circling, que se caiga, que se caiga, Somoza, and it was raining. Let him fall, let Somoza fall. That was the dictator of Nicaragua at the time. We chanted, incanted, circling, circling, Pinochet, Romero y Somoza son la misma cosa, and it was raining. Pinochet, Romero, and Somoza are the same thing. Those were the dictators of Chile, El Salvador, and Nicaragua. We chanted, chanted, incanted, circling, circling. Se siente, Sandino está presente. You can feel it, Sandino is present. And it was raining, ending a 3-year drought. I saw it myself on the corner of Mission and 24th Street. Well, it is my pleasure to invite a sister poet who I struggled with over the years, together with Avacha and many other wonderful women. We put out that Third World Women book when there were no such books. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you a former poet laureate of San Francisco, Janice Mirikatani, and a fabulous poet.
Bring back such great memories. And I don't know about you, but I'm still recovering from getting up those stairs. Yeah. It's been a lot of years. It's been a lot of years. And all of the movements that you're talking about, and I'm remembering that, I mean, I've been at Glide Foundation, Glide Urban Center, Glide Church, with my husband, Reverend Cecil Williams. We will be celebrating 50 years for him next year. I will be celebrating 48 years. But I will tell you that Third World Communications brought much excitement to the corner of Taylor and Ellis and to this church that was like blowing everybody's mind. These 35 white people who were over 60 and who were still calling Cecil the N-word, and they didn't want him there, left. He stayed, we stayed, and we brought in everybody from all over the Bay Area. And that is a great pride and joy to me. And I'm so proud to still be here, to be able to celebrate with you this evening, this wonderful reunion. Third World Communications, which we founded in 1971, was probably a movement that saved my life. Because I, as a Japanese American woman, and as someone who, as an infant, was incarcerated in the World War II concentration camps, and as an Asian American, trying to connect with many, many different and very varied ethnic groups in the Asian community, I found that the common thing was that we were the silent minority. I felt encapsulated by silence, both about abuse, abuse in our family and in our men treating women and in our cultural kind of traditions as well that were unspoken, but also because of the camps. And my mother kept her silence for over 40 years, as did many of the women and men in her generation. So when we came together in Third World Communications, I just felt like, wow, my life changed. And of course, with the ethnic studies strike at San Francisco State, and meeting sisters who were not Asian, but who shared, women of color who shared a common struggle with us and shared the common feelings that I had of invisibility, of being inferior, of being marginalized, of being omitted, of being second-classed. Sounds horrible, but it was a renewal. It was like coming alive, because I no longer felt alone. And I think that was the power of Third World Communications. That was the power that Roberto Vargas and his vision saw, that if we gathered, and if we could join our voices, and if we could share our common struggle, then we as a community, a coalition, would gain strength and power. And I believe that has come true. It is a vision that has discovered its reality and continues to grow. And I think in all of the movements that have connected us, that we can't forget. I think in this age of technology, it is very easy for us to forget one another. It's very easy for young people to not even understand what struggle means. I fear that we will lose the language, because I don't understand all this text shit. But everything is like in letters. I mean, I'm not putting it down because I'm sure that it multiplies the ability to communicate, but on the other hand, it also makes it very slick and perhaps shallow. And I'm sorry?
Takes the passion out.
Takes the passion out. Feel like, yeah, and I feel like we don't really get deeper. Can't get to our real feelings with texting and computers and so on. But anyway, so Roberto asked me to say a little bit about Third World Communications and our first effort, which was actually Third World Women was our first effort, because this book, Third World Women, women from all different communities, and Abacha was part of that, Nina was part of that, so many women were part of that, and Tazaki and Jessica, and I mean, so many different women of color, Kitty Sway, everybody. We were part of this, and we met in our little living rooms, our little apartments and kitchens. We put this book together by hand in these cold basements with one light bulb and standing in, the cement, and makeshift light tables, and we were erasing the little dots and the spots and the mistakes and the misspellings by hand, and it took a year or so to be able to even get it into a negative form so that we get it to a printer, and we'd have to sell it from the backs of the trunks of our cars and from benefit poetry readings in order for us to make any money to get the next publication. But you know, that is how we worked, and that is what the isms are about. And I think that that is the power of this movement, is that we would not allow omission and eradication and, you know, misinterpretation and complete distortion of who we are and our history to silence us. The power of these anthologies, the power of third world communications, the power of the vision of the people from all the communities coming together, the communities of color coming together to fight the effects of colonialism, which unfortunately we do see today. In my work at Glide, we see it today. We see it in sex trafficking, we see it in the communities, we see it in the profiling of our youth. And don't get me started because I will go on. But we need to continue to revolutionize who we are, continue to tell, especially our young people, especially our children, that they have a voice that is beautiful, that deserves to be heard, and they have the right to correct history because, you know, American society will continue to try to make money over trying to humanize what our society should be about. But, you know, the times that we did spend as an Asian woman, I have to tell you that I felt completely unworthy and invisible. And I heard the same story coming from African American, Latin sisters, and all the different ethnicities, Filipinos, Chinese, etc., of the Asian community, as well as Native American community sisters. And we were able to share our struggle, how we became codependent upon the bad behavior. I say bad behavior, the frustrated behavior of our brothers, because we wanted to protect, and we wanted to defend, and we wanted to affirm our brothers as well as our sisters. And we understood the effect of racism and colonialism on our communities. And you know, we're seeing it today, unfortunately. I mean, the 70s are not, unfortunately, not that much has changed. We're still seeing people being violent, our own community being violent against our own people. We're still seeing profiling. We're still seeing the jails being filled by people of color. And we're still seeing the education system discriminate against our children. So, you know, the fight continues. I'm sorry. And this is what it looked like, third world women. It is truly beautiful, beautiful. And we sang and we laughed and we wept together as we revealed more and more of each other and were the mirrors that held up to one another the true beauty of who we are. And I think we can't do enough of that. And Time Degrees, this was a landmark, a third world anthology. I will say to you that we were a little more sophisticated. We got Glide Publication to help us publish this, so we didn't have to stand in the basements to do that. And you know, each section was defined by the title, Time Degrees, and it had to do with feasting, our culture, and food being that kind of metaphor that brings people together to gather, to be able to celebrate themselves, to celebrate culture, to celebrate our common, you know, like how we had to survive, like, you know, hog head and chicken feet and I don't know, I mean, you know, grinding corn and all of the different ways in which we've had to survive, Denic one, pig's blood, and I mean, all the things that are unheard of, but by white America. You know, we love it, right? Anyway, so Time Degrees, Roberta asked me to read an excerpt at least from Maya Angelou, who was there at the beginning. And we just talked to her the other day, and she's doing very well. Cecil and I have a book coming out, and she's agreed to endorse it, and we're very excited about that next year. But she's still there. Isn't that amazing? And she says in Time Degrees, and unfortunately they're out of print, but she says, Now this book, Time Degrees, and I read it from, something I did enlarge because I can't see very well these days. Time Degrees, we hear the truth. Blacks, browns, reds, yellows are telling the story. The poetry sings and the total effect is harmony. There is hurt, humor, and hope in these pages. The hurt of concentration camps, cockroaches and drugs, of broken treaties and promises. There is enchantment of the beauty and blackness and the searing awareness that beauty is not enough. There is the wry chuckle of cooking chitlins in a newly integrated white suburbia, and the American Indian selections that come like a faintly heard chant late at night. These colors have come together as in a rainbow. This too is America, where she has come from, and a close and honest look to inform where she is going, and probably saddest of all, why. Joy in the reading, growth in the learning, and wisdom in the understanding. And that was Maya Angelou.
40 years ago.
1972 is my favorite book, because Louise was published in 73. This happens every Sunday at Rod when I start to preach too. Anyway, especially when we're talking about Occupy, AIG, and the banks that brought us to disaster. Okay. I love being here. I mean, it's so great. And we do have an Asian section. I think I'm not going to read the Asian section, even though we do celebrate our food, like rice, adobo, sashimi, imo, gailan, kimchi, chicken feet, a pickled sea, choice salmon, mango trees. Nourish us. Hear it, smell it, feel it, taste it. Time to breathe. I'll just read one very old poem, if I can see it. And it's called Yes, We Are Not Invisible. No, this is the thing about profiling. Unfortunately, I wrote this long ago, but unfortunately we're seeing it still happen today. And we just recently at Glide created a coalition related to the Trayvon Martin murder, and it really has to do with a much larger issue than Trayvon. It has to do with Oscar Grant. It has to do with all of our young people that are being shot at and chased by cops, and the kids who are being profiled and suspected of stealing something and followed down aisles of grocery stores. I mean, we're still in it, folks. But but this is a specifically Asian stereotype, trying to break the stereotype thing. Yes, we are not invisible. No, I'm not from Tokyo, Singapore, Saigon. No, your dogs are safe with me. No, I don't invade the park for squirrel meat. No, my peripheral vision is fine. No, I'm very bad at math. No, I do not answer to geisha girl, China doll, mama-san, Jap, gook, or chink. No, to us life is not cheap. I do not know the art of tea, and no, I am not grateful for all you've done for me. Friends have died from AIDS and PTSD. Some of us murdered, blamed for the economy. We've been jailed for mistaken identity, incarcerated because of ancestry. And no, I'm not the model minority. No, I am from Stockton, Angel Island, Detroit, Waikiki, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Phoenix, New York City, Delano, Tule Lake, Anchorage, Raleigh, and yes, I am alive because of memory. Ancestors who endured adversity, the strength of this diversity. No, we are not invisible. And yes, I am from Tokyo, Singapore, Manila, Guam, Beijing, Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam, India, Korea, Samoa, Hong Kong. Yes, the strength like ropes of the sun, our strength. Again, lift a new morning. And yes, we rise, as always, amidst you. Roberto has been a leader, a mentor. I would not be writing poetry, I don't think, if he didn't push me up on that stage to read my first poem. And when everybody was silent, he cheered me, as he has many of us. And he has led us through movements. He has brought to Glide, Los Siete, he's brought to Glenora Astorga, and Allende, and Nestor Cardinal, and he has helped bring together so many communities. And I just want to celebrate you and thank you for everything that you've done. Who could not be here this evening, wanted me to convey to you his gratitude for the solidarity that we've shared together for so many, many decades. Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Provided us when we didn't have the forum. We started out doing things by the park, and then we got St. Peter's Church. We were working out of St. Peter's in '67. Well, no, even before that time and day. Remember Margie's Red Barn on Mission and 30th with all the sawdust? Margie's Red Barn, Alejandro. Then we opened up the Ribble that Borden on Casita and Folsom, a little bar over there. That was like in late 60s, early 70s. So we did those kinds of venues at first. But then when we started doing the larger citywide, it was with Glide. And that's when we started getting the money for our first big, anthologies and stuff. So Cecil Williams, our eternal gratitude for you, Jan. Thank you very much. So we've got, should I read a poem there?
Yes. Yes. Roberto Vargas must read a poem.
I want to read a couple of short poems. And round about, what was that, Arturo? Come on up, man. Late 60s, we started, venturing into the musica and the noise accompanying, the poetry. So we had Victor Hernandez Cruz come up.
Must accompany.
Young kids when I was a counselor at Horizons Unlimited in 69, 68, 69. Arturo was about 12, 13, I think. His brother Richie, who was a psychiatrist now. Richie, which I'm grateful for. He had to be there for me. But all these young folks, man, and we. Oh, after that, Felipe Estruciano came and read with us. Alejandro, Felipe, Victor. So when Felipe saw that, with the drums behind us, he went back to New York and he formed The Last Poets. And he said, hey, Roberto, guess what? I go, what you got there, man? Listen to this. I go, oh, it sounds familiar, right? And he did it right. So we were doing it all on the street or whatever. Now that brother got it, did it, put it out there, video, todo. I mean, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. Congratulate them. Anyway, let me just do one that was pretty well known there. This one came out in about 69. It was called Elegy Pa Gringolandia. Elegy Pa Gringolandia in 13 cantos, and basically it was some memories of what happened about a year or two, a few years before that, right? That was happening. So I try to bring it up in this kind of diary form, and I had my little own class. It seems just the other day, acid guru Dr. Leary tuned into his local weatherman, turned on to 1 million micrograms of Marx, and dropped out of apathy. Tune in, turn on, drop out. It seems just the other day, Brother Jimi Hendrix dreamt of decibels, glowing heavily, holes in the air, nirvana, and the wind cries Mary. It seems just the other day, Sister Angela Davis's car was found raped, sentenced to hang, buried in San Jose State by the 10th most wanted, all-male Elks Club, card-carrying FBI Klansmen. Keep on running, keep on riding. It seems just the other day, Fidel Castro sang, tumba la caña jibarito, tumbala, tumba la caña jibarito, tumbala, and prayed often in silence for the love of all our people. Caña, caña, zafra, zafra. Vaya Fidel. It seems just the other day, 6 million Chicanos off their cactus image and cried, Chale, no, we won't go. The Alamo is alive and falling in LA. Remember the Salazar and Chente. Chicano, pow. Chicano, pow. It seems just the other day, Mohawk brave Richard Oakes packed up wife, child, friends into a beat-up silver Buffalo bus to rediscover life, squaw, teepees, feathers in Indio America, Alcatraz. Alcatraz lives, no Birdman, no Birdman. It seems just the other day, the Wall Street Journal, his master's voice, chanted extreme unction rights to the tinkle of a no-sale cash register in the belly of the stock exchange. America hemorrhaged internally and died of an overdose of hate. Did they blame it on rents? Oh, say can we see? It seems just the other day, a new world began again. A new world began again. Chepito in Nicaragua natural, sticking knife to drum skin, splashing tim timbal voodoo on Santana's Mayan, Pocho, Afro, Sinfonia, Jingo, Jingoba, Jingoba, Jingoba. And today, the little children are stoned on liberation and love at the risk of seeming ridiculous. Okay. One more? Yes. Let's do the Alcatraz. You remember Alcatraz? When we were at State College, we decided we have to open up, and that's when ethnic studies began, of course, with Hayakawa, Danny Flower, Danny, Reggie Majors, all of us got put in jail for that effort. We got out though. But then, during that period, we were busy, right? The Indios, the Native American stuff, we were busy. But you know what we were busy at? Many things. One of them was Alcatraz. Richard Oakes, the Means brothers, we all started working on how the federal law stated at the time that any unused federal lands were to go back to original owners. We found that. And at that time, Alcatraz was unoccupied for years. So we said, let's test the federal law. So a number of the Oaks and the indigenous brothers from 16th Street started working and putting together the occupation of Alcatraz. And the rest is history. Okay? It's called Alcatraz is America. Alcatraz is America. Cold stone beauty, slippery slopes. Once habitat for albatross, jailbirds, birdman of Alcatraz. Spiritual retreat, isolation for Modoc tribe. Indios Americanos conjuring rituals of Tambor. y verso, cultural alchemy of survival. No American flags draping over the anonymous graves of indios originales en cemetery symbol, en Mission Dolores, inmigrantes en nuestra propia América, in our own America. Alcatraz, as mass hoped to escape from, became monumental trophy to American penal colonies. Captive 19 Hopis, 1895. Captain 5 Modoc guerrilleros, later home, 1934. Alcatraz is America, the vindicator, the cosmic watchtower for fundamentalists and federales. Captive Machine Gun Kelly, captive Al Capone, Birdman of Alcatraz, heard the drum and cantos tattooed on the walls of total deprivation of freedom of solitary confinement. Alcatraz is America, and Richard Oakes, John Trudell, Laredo means Indians of all tribes reclaimed her as Pachamama, Mother Earth. Now we control the rock. Now we control the rock is the mantra. Richard Oakes gave life to the meaning of sovereignty, a daughter who died there on that coveted piece of planet, carved by waves of solitude and domination, by Richard through struggle with his life, carved his island tombstone, as big as his heart, as his love for his people, all our people. Alcatraz is stepping stone to Wounded Knee, Pine Ridge, the Bolivarian Andes. Alcatraz is a gemstone of West America, of Turtle Island. Our blood flows on its cold surface, bearing south of the heart, north of the mind, to Aztlán, where Indios again will and are controlling the rock, their patrimony, their destiny. Abya-yala, abya-yala, abya-yala. So I see we've been changing the order, but Nina, shall we go ahead and introduce ourselves? Okay, vale, pues. Thank you again for being indulged. We decided that we are going to be open up and just be poets instead of being rigid. We will change the order as we feel the fluidity. And I want to introduce one of our wonderful sisters, and as Jan pointed out, has been there since the beginning with us. And she is also a very accomplished musician, and she's won a number of Bay Area awards. But beyond all that, she is our sister, our Amacha. Thank you.